Hey there, this is K4A, Knowledge for All educational videos and tutorials. In today's video I will try to explain you how and when you can use GML visual drag and drop block, which is called for or for loop. It's one of the loop blocks. In a previous video we have learned how to use repeat block. Today for loop, which is similar to repeat but gives you more option and more control, and we will see that in action. And even if you look at the icon of this block, you can see that there is a closed circle, which is different from repeat. The repeat had open circles, so in repeat block we had some kind of exit already, which was defined by our conditions, and in this for loop we have possibility to go endless in cycle, which can be dangerous, and we will see that maybe in this video, maybe in some future. That can happen also to some other loops or code in general, and that can make your game crash or go freeze or something like that, stop from working. So you have to be really careful with this one. And also there is some kind of line which represents that you can exit this block, which is also necessary. Okay, so let's see that in action, and let's try to compare it a little bit to previous one. So this video will probably be also around half an hour or so, because these blocks are very important and you will see them sooner or later if you try to make more complex games. In a previous video we have defined some kind of repeat action to spawn coins in our game. We had some kind of enemies bombs, but now we also have some coins which are spawned every time differently when the game starts, and you can collect them like this, and that is all to make game more interesting. But sometimes, for example, if your game designer makes a change, or you as a indie, doesn't have to be some kind of studio game designer, you as a indie developer can also change your game a lot, and that happens a lot. So for example, if you have some kind of idea that you don't need coins spawned different every time when the game starts, or at least at some levels you don't need that, but instead you need more control on their spawning. You need to control where they show up on the screen, and you need to show them in some kind of precise line in a row. And again, that's a real world problem. That will happen a lot. And good idea would be probably to start from the code we already have here. So I would copy this code, but first I would like to make a new object, create object, and we will call it obj coin for, because we will use the for loop. And I will copy this event, create event, from obj coin repeat. Copy event, right click, copy event, then go to obj coin for, right click, paste event, save. Okay, some warning because I don't know why I have changed some parameters earlier. Okay, so what do I need here? I don't need this repeat. My game designer says, okay, I don't want that repeated like that. I need more control, so I will disable it. But I need, maybe I will need some random, maybe I will need some kind of row. Let me have two options or more. And how would you do it? Let me try that with for loop, so I will try to find for loop, loop, repeat, while, for loop. Here it is. I will click and drag it here, and immediately you can see I will try to drag it above this repeat block. Yeah, okay, so immediately you can see that we have lots of parameters here, so this is much more complex if you compare it to repeat. Repeat only had one field which says times, and you just type the number there, and that's how many times repeat block will repeat the code which you put in it, like we did here with create instance. For loop has three kind of fields: initialize, condition, and increment, and all of those can be changed anytime while you develop, but you have to be careful and you have to test it to see if it works. So don't do that very often, and before you think about it, what do I need to change and why. Also, I will give the link to official Yo-Yo Games GameMaker manual page where you can see those explanation in more detail, but let me try to go through them on my own. Initialize. First of all, you see some kind of letter here, I, the letter I, and also some numbers. The letter I represents the variable. So we had earlier here some kind of drag and drop blocks with common group of blocks which says assign a variable, declare temp, set global, get global. We explained some of those. Assign, I think, an if variable. So this field does exactly the same thing to us already. The GameMaker did that to this for loop, so we can work faster and don't have to do that on our own. So they defined variable, called it I, and said that variable I will start with 0 value. So this initialize I is 0 is like me putting this. Sorry, I have to make this a little bit bigger to have space. Okay, so I hope you can see this. Okay, I can assign a variable anytime during my coding and say variable is called I, value is 0. So this assigned variable name I, value 0 is same as this field here in for loop, initialize I equals 0. So they did that for us to make it easier for us to work. But I just want to show you that how that works and why that works like that. So they did that for us and said, okay, this will be our starting position. We have some kind of variable, then we have some kind of condition. Condition says, in this case, again, this is only default. You can change that anytime. Says, okay, is that variable less than 10? So we are asking the GameMaker some question. Is our variable less than 10? If it is, do some kind of code which we have here. For example, create instance and so on. So if it is, if this condition is true, if it's I is less than 10, and we know that I is 0, so 0 is less than 10, that is true, then do this code. If this code is in it, we can put any code we want. And after that, we do some kind of increment. We add value to variable because we're making some kind of counter. If we didn't have this last field increment, if we only had initialize and condition, what would happen? Just think about it. Just look at those two fields, initialize, condition, and what would happen like this? Is 0 less than 10, it is. Okay, do some code. Is 0 less than 10? Oh, yes, it is. Okay, do some code. So this would be endless loop if we didn't have this increment. But this increment will add some value to our variable. It will change it in every step. So after 10 steps, our I will become 10. So 10 is less than 10. No, it isn't. Then this will serve us as break, as exit from the loop. So this increment serves you as some kind of condition to check in terms of if this condition is same, or whatever you use this as a parameter, less, more, same, equal, and so on, then get out of this loop. So if we didn't have this increment, we would endlessly loop in 0 is less than 10, 0 is less than 10. So I will now try to delete this repeat block. Oops. And first of all, yeah, when I deleted the repeat block, I deleted all the stuff in it, which makes sense. So first I will drag and drop this stuff because I want to test it. Delete repeat because we're making for spawner, not repeat. I will go to zoom out a little bit more, then zoom in. Okay, so what am I doing here now? Let me guide you again. I will try to make the same code which I did in previous video with repeat block, only this time with some other block, just to see if that is possible, and also then to change it and give more control to my game designer needs. Okay, so first of all we had randomized block because we want to shuffle our values. Then we said, okay, we have some kind of for loop which starts with 0 and will go how many times. In previous video we had repeat 5 times because we needed 5 coins. So let me try to type 5 here, and that will be our condition, and increment will be +1. So every step of this loop I will go +1. I will start with 0, then do the code, check the condition. If it's true, do the code, then do increment, then my variable I is 1, then also check condition, do the code, incrementing, then my I is 2, and so on, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so what am I making here? I'm making same stuff as in previous video. I'm making some kind of random number value between the borders of the width of my scene, between 50 and 750 pixels, and put that in my target variable. Same with x and y, same with this one, 50 and 554 y, and then put those variables into my create instance. So I'm going to create instance of the obj coin randomly with for loop instead of repeat. But before that I have to check my scene. Okay, so I have obj coin repeat. I want to delete that, and I want to add now obj coin 4. So obj coin 4. Okay, so let me test our game now. So we have used for loop with some kind of variable in it instead of repeat, and let me see if this works. This works. I have 5 coins, but I think, yeah, let me try it again. I think it should be, yeah, if it works, 5 coins, great. The thing which I wanted to show you here is that sometimes you will make mistakes here with this with this counter, when it starts, by default it starts with 0, and that's what I was talking about when I was explaining scratch blocks and how some game engines differ, but most of those most popular and biggest and the strongest game engines, they use counting. They use numeration from 0. They start counting from 0, so it's not 1 2 3 4 but 0 1 2 3 4. So in this case, my first value is 0, and then I go 0 1 2 3 4, and when I count here to 5, I stop. But sometimes you will maybe think, okay, because I need 5 coins, I will say 5 is like less than 6 or something like that, because you will get confused with 0 instead of 1. That's what I wanted to warn you about. So that's one more thing to be aware, because sometimes you, with these conditions, you won't use less or greater. You can use also equal or whatever you want. So it's about what you need, when you need, and how to use it. Okay, so we had the same thing here now as with repeat block, which is also great lesson for you to learn. Again, something which I emphasize a lot is that you can do same thing in different ways. You can solve the same problems with different tools or different mindset, and that is very important, not only in coding, programming, but in real life, in everyday life. So we have learned that. Now again, this is only what we had before. Now let me try to step back a little bit and think about, okay, how can I use these variables or variable I into my advantage to code what I need to code. My game designer said I needed to code those coins in some straight line, in some row. So I'm just showing you here what we had before we had this this repeat block. So think about it, think about for a few seconds here with this repeat block. How would you do it? How if you only had repeat block and game designer says, okay, I don't need no random number and instance on random position, I need very precise position. So you would either have to code that manually by create first instance, like instead of this you would type some exact value 50 or 60 or whatever a game designer needs, or you would have to go with why is this so? Or you would have to use the blocks which we have shown earlier here, like, okay, I first need to assign some variable to change it, then to test if that variable is some value, and so on. We already have that with for loop here, so that's something which we can use. So let's use that. First of all, I will disable this get random, because as I said, game designer doesn't need that anymore. Okay, and let me think about it. What do I need here? I need to create instance. Okay, I will leave this random instance here just in case game designer change his mind again. Yeah, I have to resize this. I made it too big, so I cannot now scroll left and right again. Okay, now it's better. Okay, so I need to create instance Okay, here, okay. Just forget all this random number and random number creation, because we need now to create some kind of very specific inner row like coins. So I can show you what our game designer needs. He needs something like this. Okay, I need you to do this, to make some kind of coins in a row, like, I don't know, it's Super Mario or some kind of platformer game. I need some kind of spawner where you have these coins in a line. And again, if I need only 3 of those, or 6 or 9, I can put that like this in my game scene, in my game, just drag and drop it and it will work. But sometimes you will need 50 of those, or 500 or something like that, so it's much more logic to make code to do that for you, because otherwise you would go crazy if you had to put 5,000 coins and you would make an error, or maybe sometimes you would need to delete those and so on, so it would be very, very slow. Okay, so let me think about it. I need to create instance. Okay, which instance? Obj coin. Great. Where do I need to create it? Okay, I need to create it, for example, on y50, which means my coin will be here 50 pixels from the top, so it won't be in the top line, but 50 pixels here. So let me try to do that first, to just see if that works. Okay, y should be 50. I will test the game now, and my for loop will make how many? 5 coins on y position of 50 pixels. The problem here is now that they are all on top of each other. You can see that. I only see 1 coin, but actually there are 5 of those, but they are always on same x position. X position is 0. So that is why you see only 1. Okay, at least we have y50 solved. Okay, so now let me think about how am I going to do this, and what do I need to do? Okay, my coin is here on 50 pixels. That is great. I need it now here on 54x. Let me try that now. I will just change x to 50. Okay, great. Now let me test it. Okay, this looks great. The only problem here is that I have all of my coins one on top of each other. I don't see 5 of those, I see only 1. So how to solve it? Okay, we have 50, so now what do we have to do? We have to somehow use this variable here, I, to tell the GameMaker to move every other coin a little bit more to the right. And if you think about it first before you code, you would do something like that. Okay, x is here 50, x is here 100, x is here 150, x is here 200. So every next coin would be 50 pixels to the right on the x-axis. So I have to say that now to GameMaker in some kind of function, in some kind of rule, condition, in terms of you need to repeat something a couple of times. I will try to do that first like this. I will use this value I, and why will I use the I? Because I will change for me, because I'm in for loop. I starts with 0. So if I type here I, what would happen here? In first iteration, in first run through this loop, I would be 0. In next it would be 1. In next it would be 2, 3, 4, and 5. Why is that so? Because we said here go plus 1 in every next step and check if I is less than 5. If I is 5 or more, greater than 5, then break out of the cycle. So first run would be 0. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can use these values of I. I can type I, and this I will change because this I change here with increment. So you use the value, the variable which for loop defined for you, which is great. So if I said I, x is I, so that will be x is 0. Let me test it like this. X is 0, it will be here 50 because y is 50 and x is 0. Then next would be 1. That would be very close. I cannot even because I have a snap turned on, I cannot show you, but it would be 1 pixel to the right, so it would be like they're overlapping. So I don't want to do that. I want to say, okay, I need more. I need I times 50, for example. So what would happen now? Can you translate that in your mind and count? So why would this change and how it would change? It would change because we had this variable I here in for loop, and every time it changes here, it will change in the code which we put in for loop. So I would be 0 for the first time, so I times 50 would be how much? It would be 0. In the next row, in the next loop, I would be 1, so 50 times 1 would be how much? 50. Then in the next iteration, in the next loop, I would be 2, 2 times 50 would be 100. Then 3 times 50, 150, and so on. So every step we change this I with the value we defined here and check condition and so on. So check out how this will look now. The first coin would be on X position 0 because I is 0. The next one would be on position 50. Why? Because I is 1. 1 times 50 is 50, and so on and so on. So we're using the variable I to do whatever we want in our code. So now I think we will have a nice row of coins. Yeah, cool. 50 is maybe, no, it isn't too much. Maybe, yeah, I have a problem here that my first coin starts with 0 edge because it's 0. I is 0 and I times 50 is 0, so maybe I could put this in brackets, and so now we're entering some kind of math, but again, just think about what we are doing. I want to push the first coin a little bit to the right, so I'm just adding a little bit more pixels with this, plus 30 or 50 or however you want, how much you want. So now I think it will be pushed a little bit to the right. Yeah, so this works. So we have solved the problem. Again, maybe it sounded too complex for most of you because the way I'm explaining, I hope not, but again, the whole idea here is that we are using the variables which are here in for loop defined for us. We can change them, we can use them, and we didn't have them in repeat block. That's the whole idea for this video, and for you to try to start seeing the changes in those blocks and control which you have with every other more complex blocks. So for example, if you need some simple repetition, simple spawn, or random, I would probably use repeat. Why not? It finishes the job for me. I need 5 coins, 5 times repeat, that's it. If I need more control, I would use probably for loop. And again, this is only one example of how to use it and when and why. And you can put any kind of code here in for loop. That's the whole idea with coding. You can go wild here and put these kind of some of these blocks, like I can go wild and put some kind of variables in for loop like this, some variable, some other variable. Then I can check that variable, and that variable can be, for example, we can use that in some other video, number of coins, or health, or ammo, or something like that. And then this for loop checks the condition which we had here with I is less than 5, but in it I have completely some other stuff, some other checks, some other features, mechanics, and so on. Another thing which I would use this, for example, for is that I think when I check this relative box here, then my x and y coordinates in create instance should be relative to the position of my object here, obj coin spawner for this is where it is. So now my coins should spawn on top of it. And why is that important? Again, I will show it in just a second. Yeah, so I will just and you can see how it's easy to change those things. So for example, your game designer says, okay, 5 coins is too much, go with 3 coins. Okay, I is less than 3. Also, I need more of those coins on the screen in terms of I need coins on every platform on the game. So what would you do? I would do something like this. Okay, here it is, 1. We have defined it. I'm just going to drag and drop couple of others just to see how it will look. So we can have, so we will have now 3 coins here, 3 coins here, 3 coins here, 3 coins here, and 3 coins here. And you see how it's easy then to build a level, to build some kind of game. Yeah. Okay, so my game designer says now, okay, I don't want these 3 coins in the middle, delete those. I just delete the spawner. I don't have to delete coin by coin. If I didn't use the code, I would have to drag and drop them like this, then go to game. Okay, he don't need those. Okay, delete them, and so on. So imagine you have 500 of those or something like that. And in this case now I only have to delete this spawner. Okay, my game designer says, okay, let me test the game. Yeah, okay, no, I don't think so. Bring it back. You just drag and drop it like this. So that's the whole idea of coding and loops, especially when you repeat some kind of code. It's mostly used for instantiating, for creating some kind of objects and so on. And in this case we have learned how to do that with for loop, which gives you more control, which gives you variables. And we will see, this is only the beginning. We will see how you can make errors, you can make endless loops, and how to break out of those in next few videos which will follow this one. Okay, half an hour, sorry, but this, I hope this one was useful for some of you. So see you in next one.